The name's Rachel, and I'm the oldest of two daughters. From as far back as I can remember, I was the serious one, the independent one. My sister Lily? She was the complete opposite. Growing up, our house was always filled with noise. Lily's laughter, Mom and Dad's doting words, the constant buzz of the latest pop songs. Me? I preferred the quiet corners, nose buried in a book or scribbling away at my homework. Birthdays and holidays were a stark reminder of how different Lily and I were. While she'd tear through her gifts, squealing with delight at the latest trendy clothes or gadgets, I'd carefully set aside the money I received. "What are you saving for this time, Ratch?" Dad would ask, a hint of pride in his voice that never quite reached his eyes. "A laptop for studying," I'd reply. "The library computers are always full." He'd nod, but I could see the disconnect. They never quite understood why I didn't want the things other girls my age did. Lily, on the other hand, was a whirlwind of ever-changing styles and demands. "Mom, did you see the new iPhone? Everyone at school has one. I need it." And just like that, she'd have it. No questions asked, no saving required. I remember the day I finally bought my laptop. I'd saved for months, researching the best model for my needs. When I brought it home, I was bursting with pride. "Look, I finally got it," I announced at dinner. Mom glanced up from her plate. "That's nice, dear. Oh, Lily, tell us about your day at the mall." And just like that, the conversation shifted. Lily launched into a detailed description of her latest shopping spree, and my achievement faded into the background. It wasn't that they didn't love me. I knew they did, in their own way. But Lily was the sun in our family's solar system, and I was a distant planet, quietly orbiting on my own path. As we grew older, the differences only became more pronounced. While Lily experimented with wild hairstyles and the latest fashion trends, I stuck to my practical ponytail and comfortable jeans. The library became my second home, a quiet sanctuary where I could focus on my goals without distraction. When it came time for college, I threw myself into applications with the same determination I'd shown throughout high school. I spent countless nights perfecting my essays, researching scholarships, and studying for entrance exams. The day I received my acceptance letter, along with a full scholarship, was one of the proudest moments of my life. I burst into the kitchen, waving the letter. "Mom, Dad, I got in. Full ride." Mom looked up from where she was helping Lily with her makeup. "Oh, that's nice, dear." "Lily, hold still, I'm trying to get this eyeliner perfect." Dad glanced over his newspaper. "Good job, Rachel." We expected nothing less. Their lukewarm response stung, but I was used to it. I retreated to my room, clutching the letter to my chest. This was my ticket out, my chance to prove myself. Meanwhile, Lily barely scraped through high school. The day she brought home her mediocre report card, I expected our parents to finally show some disappointment. Instead, they rallied around her. "Oh, sweetie, don't worry about it," Mom cooed, stroking Lily's hair. "College isn't for everyone. You're talented in so many other ways." Dad nodded in agreement. "That's right, princess. You'll find your path." I couldn't believe my ears. "Are you kidding me?" She barely passed. Mom shot me a sharp look. "Rachel, don't be cruel. Your sister has other gifts." I bit my tongue and retreated once again. It was clear that no matter what I achieved, Lily would always be the favorite. College was a breath of fresh air. For the first time, I was surrounded by people who valued hard work and ambition. I threw myself into my studies, determined to make the most of this opportunity. One day, during my sophomore year, I got a call from home. It was Lily, her voice bubbly with excitement. "Ratch, guess what? I'm thinking of taking some beauty courses. Mom and Dad think it's a great idea." I wanted to tell her about the fascinating research project I was working on, about the internship I'd landed for the summer. But I knew she wouldn't care. As I hung up, I couldn't help but feel a mix of frustration and determination. I was on my own path, and I was going to make it count. The years flew by. While Lily flitted from one beauty course to another, never quite finishing anything, I graduated with honors. I landed a job at a prestigious company before the ink was dry on my diploma. The day I moved into my own apartment was bittersweet. As I unpacked my meager belongings, I thought about how different my life was from Lily's. She was still living at home, being pampered by our parents. But I was standing on my own 2 feet, ready to take on the world. My first few months at work were a whirlwind. I worked longer hours than anyone else, determined to prove myself. My dedication didn't go unnoticed. Within a year, I was promoted to team leader. I called home to share the news. Mom answered, "Oh, Rachel, that's nice. But guess what? Lily's met the most wonderful boy. He comes from such a good family. We're all so excited." As she rattled on about Lily's new boyfriend, my promotion faded into the background. I hung up feeling deflated but more determined than ever. If my family couldn't appreciate my achievements, I'd just have to achieve even more. I threw myself into my work like a woman possessed. Days blurred into nights, weekends became just another opportunity to get ahead. My dedication paid off. I got another promotion, then another. Before I knew it, I was head of the department, the youngest in the company's history. Mr. Thompson, the owner, called me into his office one day. "Rachel, your work has been exceptional. We've never had someone rise through the ranks so quickly." I beamed with pride. "Thank you, sir. I love what I do." He smiled. "It shows. That's why I want to offer you something special. We have a program for our top employees, a chance to buy an apartment at a significant discount. You've more than earned it." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of paperwork and planning. When I finally got the keys, I felt like I was walking on air. I decided to throw a housewarming party, a chance to celebrate my success with the people who mattered most. I didn't have much furniture yet, so I bought some inexpensive plastic tables and chairs. I arranged everything carefully, making sure the disposable tableware matched the decor. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine, and I was proud of it. The day of the party arrived. My colleagues showed up first, bearing gifts and warm congratulations. Then my family arrived. Mom, Dad, and Lily swept in like a whirlwind. I noticed Lily's eyes darting around, taking in the modest furnishings with a barely concealed smirk. As the evening wore on, I noticed a pattern. Every time one of my colleagues tried to congratulate me or mention my accomplishments, my parents would swiftly change the subject to Lily. "Oh, that reminds me," Mom would say, cutting off my coworker mid-sentence. "Did Rachel tell you about Lily's latest modeling gig? She's just so photogenic." Dad would chime in. "Yes, our Lily was born for the spotlight. Such natural talent." I saw the confused and slightly horrified looks on my colleagues' faces. I wanted to sink into the floor. Lily, for her part, basked in the attention. "Oh, Mom, stop it," she'd say with a giggle, clearly loving every moment. Finally, mercifully, my family left. As soon as the door closed behind them, my coworker Sarah turned to me, her eyes wide. "Rachel, what the hell was that?" she asked, her voice low and concerned. I shrugged, trying to play it off. "Oh, that's just how they are." Another colleague, Mark, shook his head. "No, Rachel, that's not normal. Are you okay? Do you need help?" I felt a lump forming in my throat. Their concern was touching, but also embarrassing. "Guys, really, it's fine. I'm used to it. Who wants another drink?" As I busied myself in the kitchen, I could hear them whispering, their concern palpable. I blinked back tears, determined not to let them see how much my family's behavior had affected me. After the housewarming fiasco, I threw myself back into work with renewed vigor. Months flew by, and slowly but surely, I transformed my apartment into a space that truly felt like home. Every piece of furniture, every splash of color on the walls was a testament to my hard work and independence. One sunny Saturday, I decided to treat myself to something I'd been eyeing for a while, a car. Nothing flashy, just a reliable sedan that would get me from point A to point B. As I drove it home, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. This was mine, bought with my own money, a symbol of my success. I hadn't planned on telling my family, but news travels fast. The phone rang that evening, and Lily's voice chirped through the speaker. "Rach, I heard you bought a car." "That's nice," she said, her tone suggesting it was anything but. "You know, you're really doing this the hard way. All this working and saving, it's so unnecessary." I felt my hackles rise. "What do you mean?" "Well, the main task of a woman is to get married properly, silly. Find a man who'll support you and give you everything you need. Why work yourself to the bone when you could have it all handed to you?" I was speechless for a moment. Was she serious? "Lily, that's not. I mean, I want to earn things for myself. I'm proud of what I've accomplished." She laughed, a tinkling sound that grated on my nerves. "Oh, Rach, always the difficult one. Well, you'll see. I'll show you how it's done." Before I could respond, she had hung up. I stared at the phone, a mix of anger and disbelief swirling in my gut. How could we see the world so differently? A few months later, I got my answer. Lily called, her voice bubbling with excitement. "Rachel, you'll never guess what happened. I'm getting married. His name is Robert. He's absolutely loaded, Rach. His parents are paying for the whole wedding. It's going to be gorgeous." As she rattled off details about dresses and flowers and guest lists, I felt a strange hollowness in my chest. This was what she had been working towards, I realized. This was her version of success. The day of the wedding arrived all too soon. I stood in the grand hall, feeling out of place among the glittering guests. Lily was radiant in her designer gown, and our parents couldn't stop gushing. I sipped my champagne, trying to quell the bitterness rising in my throat. Had they ever looked at me with such pride? Had they ever been this happy for my accomplishments? As the evening wore on, I felt more and more like an outsider. Lily was in her element, charming guests, and basking in the attention. Our parents flitted about, proudly introducing themselves as the parents of the bride. As I drove home in my modest car, to my modest apartment that I'd worked so hard for, I couldn't help but wonder, had I made the right choices? Was Lily right? Had I chosen the harder path? But then I thought about my job, my achievements, the sense of pride I felt every time I accomplished something on my own. No, I decided. My path might be harder, but it was mine. And that made all the difference. After Lily's wedding, life settled into a new rhythm. Work kept me busy, but my mother's frequent calls became an unwelcome interruption. Every conversation was the same. "Rachel, darling," Mom would start, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "You'll never believe what Lily's been up to." I'd brace myself as she launched into another tale of Lily's fabulous new life. "She's been invited to the most exclusive gatherings. Can you believe it? Our Lily, rubbing elbows with high society." One day, after a particularly trying call, I couldn't hold back anymore. "Mom, that's great for Lily, but don't you want to know what's going on in my life?" There was a pause. "Oh, honey," she said, her tone patronizing. "Of course we care. But you really should learn from your sister. Be more beautiful, get things easily. Why work all day for pennies when you could have it all?" A few weeks later, an invitation arrived. Lily and Robert were having a housewarming party for their new luxury apartment, a gift from his parents, of course. The night of the party, I stood outside their building, feeling small. I smoothed down my simple dress and took a deep breath before heading in. The apartment was stunning. Every surface gleamed, every piece of furniture looked like it cost more than my yearly salary. My parents were already there, cooing over every detail. I tried to blend into the background, but Lily spotted me. She sauntered over, champagne flute in hand. "Rachel, so glad you could make it," she said, her eyes scanning my outfit critically. "I hope you're taking notes. This is how a housewarming should be done." None of that plastic furniture and disposable dish nonsense like at your place. I felt my cheeks burn. Lily, that's... But she was already moving on, leaving me with the sting of her words. The weeks that followed were a parade of Lily's extravagance. She seemed to buy everything in sight, always the most expensive option. Then came the car. I was leaving work one evening when a sleek sports car pulled up beside me. The window rolled down, revealing Lily's smug face. "Like it?" she preened. "Just a little gift from Robert. Thought I'd take it for a spin." I glanced at my reliable but unremarkable sedan. "It's very nice, Lily." She followed my gaze and laughed. "Oh, Rachel. Always settling for less. You'll always be working for others, while I live the good life. Ta-da." 2 years flew by in a blur of spreadsheets, meetings, and promotions. While I climbed the corporate ladder, Lily seemed content to climb from one shopping spree to the next. Our paths couldn't have been more different, but I'd made my peace with it. Or so I thought. It was a regular Tuesday when my world tilted on its axis. Mom called, her voice uncharacteristically shaky. "Rachel, it's Lily. She's back home. Robert left her. He said she was too shallow, too focused on spending his money. Called her stupid, can you believe it? He had her sign a prenup, so she's got nothing." I felt a mix of emotions, shock, concern, and if I'm being honest, a tiny flicker of vindication. I squashed it down immediately, ashamed of myself. "I'm coming over," I said, already grabbing my keys. When I arrived at my parents' house, it was like walking into a war zone. I could hear Lily's screams from the driveway. Inside, it was worse. Lily was in the living room, mascara streaking down her face, her designer clothes torn. She was throwing anything she could get her hands on, vases, picture frames, cushions. "He can't do this to me," she shrieked. "I'm Lily. I'm beautiful. I'm perfect." Mom and Dad fluttered around her, trying to calm her down. "Sweetie, please," Mom pleaded. "We'll figure this out. Daddy will buy you a new dress, won't you, dear?" Dad nodded frantically. "Of course, princess, anything you want." I stood there, watching this scene unfold, feeling like I was in some bizarre alternate reality. This couldn't be happening. This wasn't how life was supposed to work, was it? As the days passed, Lily's tantrums didn't subside. She'd cry for hours, then scream, then demand expensive gifts to make herself feel better. Our parents, ever eager to please their favorite, complied with every request. One evening, after a particularly bad episode, I couldn't hold my tongue anymore. "Maybe," I said cautiously, "Lily should consider getting a job? It might help her appreciate the value of money and give her something to focus on besides all this." The room went dead silent. Then all hell broke loose. Lily's face contorted in rage. "A job like you? Slaving away day after day like some peasant?" She burst into tears and ran upstairs, slamming her door so hard the house shook. Before I could process what had happened, Mom and Dad rounded on me. "How dare you?" Mom hissed. "Your sister is going through a terrible time, and you suggest she lower herself to your level?" "But I didn't mean," I tried to explain, but they weren't listening. "Get out," Dad said, his voice cold. "Get out of this house right now." Mom pointed to the door. "Out. And don't come back until you can be supportive of your sister." In a daze, I grabbed my purse and left. As I walked into my apartment, my sanctuary, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Sadness at being rejected by my family, anger at their blindness to Lily's faults, and oddly, a sense of relief. For the first time, I saw clearly how toxic my family dynamic had been all these years. Life has a funny way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. Just days after the blowout with my family, I received news that left me speechless. I'd won a company contest. The prize? A 4-month around-the-world cruise. In a moment of weakness, or perhaps hope, I called my parents. Maybe this good news would bridge the gap between us. "Mom, Dad, you won't believe it. I want to cruise around the world. The silence on the other end was deafening. Then, my mother's cold voice cut through. Rachel, how can you be so selfish? Your sister is going through a terrible time, and you're bragging about vacations? I felt like I'd been slapped. I'm not bragging, I just thought. Mom interrupted. If you had any decency, you'd give that ticket to Lily. She needs a change of scenery. You can stay home and work, like you always do. Something snapped inside me. Years of pent-up frustration came pouring out. No, I said firmly. I won this trip. I earned it. I'm not giving it up because Lily made poor life choices. I'm going. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of preparation. I packed my bags, put my affairs in order, and on the day of departure, I turned off my phone. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. The cruise was everything I'd dreamed of and more. I watched sunsets in the Mediterranean, explored ancient ruins in Greece, marveled at the bustling streets of Hong Kong. For 4 glorious months, I was just Rachel, not the responsible older sister, not the family disappointment. Just me. But all good things must come to an end. As the ship docked back home, reality came crashing back. I turned on my phone, bracing myself for the barrage of messages. Surprisingly, there were only a few missed calls from my parents. Feeling lighter than I had in years, I headed home. But as I approached my apartment door, I heard noises inside. My heart raced. Had someone broken in? I cautiously opened the door, only to find myself face to face with Lily. She was sprawled on my couch, surrounded by shopping bags and empty takeout containers. Lily? I gasped. What are you doing here? She looked up, barely fazed by my sudden appearance. Oh, you're back. Finally. I stood there, key still in hand, trying to process the scene before me. How did you get in here? Lily rolled her eyes. Don't be dense, Rachel. I used the spare keys you gave Mom and Dad. I needed a change of scenery. Everything at home reminded me of, you know. I stood there, staring at Lily, trying to process everything. This was too much. I needed air. I'm going to the store, I muttered, grabbing my car keys and heading for the door. But when I reached the parking lot, my car was nowhere to be seen. Panic rising, I called my parents. Mom answered, her voice sickly sweet. Rachel, dear, how was your trip? Where's my car? I demanded, cutting to the chase. There was a pause. Then Dad's voice came on the line. We sold it. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. You, what? Lily needed cheering up, Mom explained, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. We used the money to take her shopping, to the spa. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That was my car. You had no right. Now, Rachel, Dad's stern voice cut in. We're family. What's yours is ours. Don't be so selfish. Something inside me snapped. Years of pent-up frustration, resentment, and anger came pouring out. Selfish? You steal my car, invade my home, and I'm selfish? I want my money back, now. Their response was immediate and harsh. They called me heartless, ungrateful, a disappointment. The words stung, but for the first time, they didn't break me. I hung up and marched back to my apartment. Lily was still there, oblivious to the storm raging inside me. Get out, I said, my voice quiet but firm. Lily looked up, shocked. What? Get out now. She tried to argue, to manipulate me like she always had, but I stood firm. For once in my life, I put myself first. The next day, I hired a lawyer and sued my parents for the value of the car. They were furious, threatening to disown me, to cut me out of their will. But I stood my ground. The case went to court. It was a grueling process, laying out years of emotional manipulation and financial abuse for strangers to judge. But in the end, justice prevailed. The judge ruled in my favor. My parents were forced to sell their house to repay me. They moved into a small apartment, all the while painting me as the villain who had ruined their lives. But for once, their words couldn't touch me. As I drove my new car home from the dealership, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time in my life, I was truly free. Free from expectations, free from manipulation, free to be myself. I cut off all contact with my family. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was necessary. The first few months were hard. There were moments of doubt, of loneliness. But slowly, I began to build a life on my own terms. I threw myself into my work, rising quickly through the ranks. I made new friends who appreciated me for who I was, not what I could do for them. I traveled, I learned new skills, I found hobbies that brought me joy. And most importantly, I learned to love myself. To appreciate my strength, my determination, my worth. Now, as I sit in my office, looking out over the city, I can't help but smile. The path I chose wasn't easy, but it was mine. I built this life brick by brick, decision by decision. And I wouldn't have it any other way.